Ooh, okay. You can't breed the dolls. I'm feeling the fantasy. I got it. I'm feeling so good, you guys. So it is a new year, brand new year. It is a new vibe. I'm going to be curating this like periodically. You can't even see behind me. I've got like a whole book. I've got a whole thing. I'm having a whole moment, okay? And I am so excited. Ooh, let me just get on this corner here. I'm so excited that you all are going to be joining me for this journey. I'm just, you know what? I'm just living my best life. And I wanted to start off 2025 with just a completely new energy, new vibe. I've talked about this kind of a lot, right? That I'm someone who, I was about 14 years old when I found Wicca. So I am someone who's identified as a witch since I was about 14 years old. And I take that, you know, that's something that's always been very important to me, like spiritually. Obviously, I've since left Wicca, you know, for my own personal reasons. It just personally, I hadn't felt connected to Wicca and that side of my spirituality for quite a long time. So I decided ultimately to just kind of say, that's okay. I want to look, you know, elsewhere. And it just so happened that one of my friends was also kind of searching for their own spirituality and was talking to me about like sort of different spiritual identities, as it were. That helped me kind of discover where I'm at now, which again, I don't really talk about all that much because that isn't really the point of this channel. I love when you do that. Okay. Are you going to be a part of this video? Is that what's happening? Or are you trying to get in there? Okay, that's your little cubby. Go in your little cubby, please. Don't go in the one with all the glitter, because I really don't want to get that all knocked over. Okay, for me, I've been a witch for a very long time. Hi, hello, I've got the cards to prove it. I've wanted to talk about some of this stuff for a long time. Not just like witchy stuff. I've wanted to talk about like ghosts and aliens and werewolves and vampires and, you know, just kind of all of that supernatural stuff. Again, not the show. I'm so sorry. Please come back. Please come back. Because if you couldn't tell, I'm a bit of a monster fucker. And I'm very much that girl that, like, if vampires and werewolves were actually very real, I'd be on that in a heartbeat. Like, let me not play. Demons too, let's be real. I want to do kind of like deep dives and video essays on certain things. I am still going to be talking about fandom stuff because hello, I can't not. But there are kind of different things, but I do want to talk mostly about supernatural things. And okay, so what got me started on this idea was I talked about this a little bit in one of my last videos when I was talking about the whole, like, am I being haunted by my cat? I've always kind of felt very torn about the existence of ghosts. I've had a lot of friends over the course of my life who were very, very insistent to me that they could see ghosts. And my view of it always was, I believe that you can see this, or like maybe that you believe it. You know, I'd never seen a ghost or what I believed to be a ghost. So I was just kind of like, yeah, I mean, I believe that you can see that, but I don't know if I believe that I can see that. I was very much not attuned with that world. And I think maybe because of embracing other aspects of my life, maybe just, you know, as I've gotten older, I think I've become more in tune with my witchy side in general. But I've definitely been able to see things in a different way that I otherwise couldn't. So I've had a lot of instances where, and it's not just me, it's also my mother, who also is someone who has never, like, seen ghosts or anything like that, but we've both had instances where we're like, oh, that's clearly just Tab. Like, you know, yes, we have 2 other cats, but neither of them look enough like her, or we know where they are. And it's like, you see something out of the corner of your eye and then it's just gone. You know what I mean? Like, it's there 1 second and gone the next. And you know, again, like I said, I've never been someone who was particularly convinced in ghosts. I believed any of my friends who said that they saw ghosts, but I was just kind of like, I've never seen that. I don't believe that I'm capable of seeing that. And for a while I kind of thought too, like, I don't know if I would want to see that. And honestly, you know, I wasn't looking to see Tab. You know what I mean? Like, there was no point where I was like actively seeking her out. I wasn't looking for her. It wasn't a situation where, you know, as much as I was upset, you know, this is a 16-year-old cat. So I knew that she wasn't going to live forever. She passed in last January. That was kind of my start of 2024. And emotionally, it was pretty rough because of that. You know, but realistically, like, I was like, she's not long for this world. She's 16. I always kind of felt like every year that I got with her was a blessing. You're a 16-year-old cat. Indoor cats can live anywhere from, like, I think 14 on the lowest end to, like, it's hard with averages, maybe 18 to 20 on the high end. 20 I think is pretty rare even for indoor cats, which she always was. I do genuinely think that having Salem kept her younger, because he always kept her active. They were always chasing each other and running around and all of these things. And he definitely went into a depression after Tab passed, which, fair, we all kind of did. But it was very strange because I didn't know what depression on a cat looked like, especially a cat like Salem, because he's always been very active. But it turns out cats can go through depression, and it's not fun. He did this thing where he wouldn't go downstairs. Like, he would only go to, like, the top 2 steps. He was, like, living on the stairs. Like, he refused. Like, at one point for, like, a month, he refused to go upstairs. Then he refused to go downstairs. It was, like, this really weird thing. And, like, I would try it because he'd get upset that, you know, I was downstairs. And I'd try and take him with me downstairs, and he'd freak out and run back up the stairs to where he was. So it was just, like, this thing. He's just in such a mood, which eventually, you know, he has gotten out of. He's more active again, thanks to the little miss here, little miscreant. So, you know, he's doing a lot better, and I think she's helped with that. But I do kind of wonder, for the last month that Tab was alive, she very much stuck to my mother's room. She had always lived in my room. She had always stayed with me. It was always kind of our thing. You know, I keep my door closed when I sleep. So she just stayed in the room with me. It was always that thing. And then, like, I want to say the last month that she was alive, she just didn't really want anything to do with me, which really upset me because I had no idea what was going on. And so she spent time with my mother and kind of just lived full time in my mother's room. And then eventually she, like, again, like Salem, wouldn't go downstairs. Like, she kind of just stuck to that room. I didn't feel like I really got to say goodbye. I had seen her that morning because, you know, she was living in my mother's bathroom. So sometimes I would go in there and say, hey, how are you doing? You know, what's going on? So for me, I did really try to communicate with her as best as I could and give her all my love and just do what I could to let her know that I was still there for her. Yeah, it kind of came out of nowhere. Knowledge that this was going to happen, and I was just so devastated. And suffice it to say, it really wasn't long after, I think, that we started seeing her about. It was not long where it was like, oh, okay, you're still here. Like, you're very much still here, just in a different form. And clearly, I think Salem felt it. I think that's why he was so reticent to go up the stairs or down the stairs. And she was really everywhere. It wasn't like she was one particular place. She was really everywhere all at once. I actually remember one time, not even a couple of weeks ago, like as recently as a couple of weeks ago, I came into my office and I was looking over here because at the time this was all set up so my desk was this way, and I looked over here and just like in this area I just saw a shadow of something, but oops, this is falling. My crown is falling. I saw a shadow of something and I just was like, oh, that's Tab. I just knew. And it was just like, it scared me for a second. Like I got jump scared by my cat. I was like, oh, hi, Tab, you know? And I was just like, okay. And it's become kind of a running joke between me and my mother. Because like I said, you know, we've both seen her a few times now. It's just it's kind of become normalized for the two of us. And I don't think either of us really were those people who like just saw ghosts. You know what I mean? Like we were not the sort of people who saw things like that growing up. You know, most people who say they see ghosts or whatever typically have seen it all their lives. A lot of my friends who I have known who are like, yeah, I see, you know, I've seen ghosts, I see ghosts, whatever. They've seen it their entire life. This is something they grew up with. They have always experienced this. This is nothing new to them. For me, it really wasn't until, I want to say 2019, 2020, that I started having this experience. And it actually started with my father. And this is... this is a story that like really, I kind of was able to just sort of dismiss it in the beginning, right? Because what it was I always thought to myself, I would have moments where, rather than with Tab, where it's very much out of the corner of your eye, you're seeing her kind of flitter by in the shadows, things like that. You know who it is, but it's a lot different. With my father, it was very much like, I always said it, I always explained it like, I'm seeing this in my mind's eye. And I remember at one point, I was in the car with my mother and we were having a discussion. I don't remember if we were having a discussion about my father or we were just having a discussion in general. And I could like, in my mind's eye, very, very clearly, I could see him sitting in the back seat. And I even turned around to make sure he wasn't there. And it was so strange and so surreal. And I had never had that experience before. But again, because I would describe it the way I did, which is like, you know, oh, it's just kind of in my mind's eye. It's just kind of like your imagination playing tricks on you, is how I viewed it at the time. I was just kind of like, well, this is just kind of in my head. I'm not really seeing this. So I can kind of get away with telling myself it's not really real. I'm not really seeing a ghost. It's just kind of like, you know, your imagination, basically. And that's how I treated it. But it kept being a thing where, whether I was talking about him or thinking about him, he just kind of kept popping up. And I could just like see him and picture him in the same situation that I was in. And it just kind of started to feel like, okay, you are clearly trying to communicate something with me. And of course, you know, I had dreams about him occasionally. It was always kind of this situation where I'm like, okay, you are clearly trying to communicate something to me. But the problem is, I have no desire to communicate with you. You lost that chance. We're done. Like, we're not doing the communication thing. You lost that privilege. I'm so sorry. Not really, but like, you know, it is what it is. And it really wasn't until Tab passed and I was seeing her very much not in my mind's eye. It was very much like everywhere. Yes, in shadow. Yes, still in moments where you could kind of have that plausible deniability. You could kind of say, well, it's not really, you know, it's all in your mind's eye, whatever. And obviously I care, you know, I've cared about her a lot more than I ever did my father. And so I think I was sadder about her passing than my father. And that's certainly true as well. That said, I cannot deny that clearly something is going on there. And to me, that something is this cat as a ghost. You know, like, I know that sounds ridiculous, but like, that's kind of the only explanation that I can come to is like, yeah, I'm being haunted by my cat. But I also feel like it's not the worst thing that you could be haunted by, certainly. And I remember growing up, my grandmother was very much the sort of person who always believed that she could talk to dead members of her family. Or our family, I should say, not just her family. our family. She always believed that she could talk to dead members of our family, including my father, and very much did use that at times. And I will talk about that because it does actually come full circle to my YouTube channel, if you can believe that. I think most people in our family were just kind of like, okay, grandma, you know, whatever, you believe that you can talk to dead people, that's fine. And I never really felt like there was anything wrong with it. It was always just kind of like, you know, if that's how you grieve and you process death and that makes you feel better and more connected, then fine. Like, I don't see anything wrong with that. I definitely didn't believe it, but it was just kind of like, okay, well, let me know what they got to say, you know, let me know the message. If it's important, send it to my voicemail, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, it was just kind of like, it's not the worst thing for someone to believe. And it was never, you know, it was never malicious. It was never anything like that. So I didn't really think anything of it. But I do distinctly remember an instance where it really became a problem for me. So let me preface this by saying, and I've talked about this a little bit on this channel, around the time my father died in 2018, I was really going through it mentally, right? I've talked about this before, but I was really, really going through it. I was having just a lot of really bad mental health shit at that point. And some of it was probably because of, you know, my father dying. Some of it was because, you know, I just experienced a really bad breakup. Just a lot of things compounded one on top of the other. I did a whole video talking about this. But suffice it to say, my mental health was just really, really on shaky ground at that point. So, you know, I was having trouble going to work. I had a point where I had such bad panic attacks that I had called 911 because I thought I was having a heart attack. That's how bad my panic attack had gotten. And my doctor basically said to me, you've had such bad anxiety that you called 911 twice in 2 months. We're putting you on this anxiety medication. I was like, okay, fine. So, you know, I'd never been on an anxiety medication before. Unfortunately for me, that anxiety medication also had the terrible side effect of making me dizzy, which was like part of a thing that I was already experiencing that was causing a lot of anxiety for me. So like, that's a whole other thing, but you know, she tried. So, you know, I almost never took it. I really tried to just really take it when I was really, really having an issue, because when something is like partly causing an issue you already have and like worsening it, you almost are like, I don't know if this is, yeah, I guess it'll make me less anxious, but it's also going to make me dizzy, which is something that kind of makes me anxious. So like, I don't know if this is the solution to my problems or causing new problems. So it was kind of like, I didn't really want to take it all that much. But I remember I had made a video that was like mostly joking. You know, it's a very old video now. It did pretty good numbers for that time in my channel's career. But I'll post the video. But it was me saying, selling my soul for fun and profit or something like that, not clickbait. So it was like talking about selling my soul to Satan in order to get, you know, my book deal and get a career and all this other stuff that I wanted. And it was really just kind of like, it was based on the fact that I thought it would be interesting to like look up, like, okay, how does one actually go about this? And then I found that some lawyer had come up with like an actual legal contract of selling your soul and like how much your soul would actually be worth and just all this kind of stuff. And I thought it was hilarious. And I thought, oh, that'd make a fun video. And so I made a video about that. And for those who maybe don't follow my Instagram, hi, Narcissa Deville at Instagram, you know, I basically like to put thumbnails of all of my videos on my Instagram channel or Instagram page. I've done that pretty much since I started my channel, because I've had Instagram since they started. I think Twitter and Instagram, I had them both like pretty much when they started. So I always put my thumbnails on Instagram to get people to watch my videos. You know, I don't know how much that's ever contributed to my watch time. YouTube has kind of given me conflicting information on that front. So if it's ever helped, I really don't know. But I still do it because it's just become a habit at this point. So lo and behold, I get a text from my grandmother, and she doesn't have an Instagram. So I don't immediately put those two things together. But I get a very long text that's actually copied from her notes app. So like she wrote something in her notes app, screenshotted that, and sent me that as a text. Why? I have no idea. I still to this day do not know what that was about. But that's what she did. And it was, I don't still have it, unfortunately, but it was basically a very, very long thing that said like, oh, you're never gonna get your dreams this way. You're going down the wrong path. I spoke to your father, who was already dead a long time at this, at least a year at this point. And he says, blah, 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 blah. And I was just like, what the fuck are you talking? Like, it came so out of left field. And I was already like on my lunch break at work, and work already made me enough of like, enough of a mental head case. And so I'm just sitting there like, what is she talking about? Where is this coming from? And I just lose it. Like, just total mental breakdown. Just like, oh my God, I don't know what is going on. Freaking the fuck out. And, you know, you saying like, for my whole life, oh, I talked to, you know, whatever dead relative. That's all well and good until it's used against you. I'll say that. And oh boy, did I not appreciate that. And so I was like, okay, well, I don't know what I'm supposed to fucking do with this. Like, it was so just emotionally manipulative, really. And it wasn't, you know, I was just, you know, completely hyperventilating in the Carl's Jr. in the bathroom, like crying, can't breathe, seeing spot. It was really just bad. And finally, I thankfully had my anxiety pills with me, so I popped one. And even though I had a bit of dizziness, it gave me the clarity to realize, oh, I know what happened. My grandmother, who does not have Instagram, saw this because my aunt and my cousin who follow me probably showed her this and felt that she needed to have a conversation with me. And I was so, like, once I had that realization, I was grateful and I had already calmed down, but I was also just so pissed because I was like, are you kidding me? Like, y'all can't even take it. First of all, I know my father very, very well. You know, he was maybe not the greatest person in a lot of ways, but I also know his sense of humor, and he would have loved that joke. 100%, he would have loved that joke. He would have loved the whole, like, selling your soul to get what you want. Like, that's just, I know he would have loved that joke. I know for a fact. And so, like, the whole reaction and, like, again, trying to use this very recent death against me and, like, you know, trying to emotionally manipulate me for what possible purpose, I still cannot fathom. But what it did was it put into perspective for me where I stand with my family and how I couldn't trust them. And so really, after that moment, I never spoke to my grandmother again. I didn't speak to my aunt again. I took everyone off my Instagram and I blocked them. Like, that was really a moment for me where I was like, okay, this side of my family cannot be trusted because I make a post that has nothing to do with you and a video that has nothing to do with you, and you're going to try and emotionally manipulate me using my dead father, who, again, like I said, you know, I may not have had a good relationship with him, but that's still a very fresh wound, and you're going to try and emotionally manipulate me and be all up in arms saying he would feel this type of way. Like, you clearly did not know the man, because I know he would have found that hilarious. So, like, that was really the last straw for me. Now, I know I kind of lost the plot here because this was supposed to be a discussion about supernatural and being haunted by my father and my cat. But it all kind of relates because, you know, again, my grandmother was trying to use the memory of my father to emotionally manipulate me in a certain way. And I wasn't going to have that. Who the fuck does that? Luckily, because she was so God-fearing and very much thought herself holier than thou, I made sure with this deity that I worship now, I said, I don't want her anywhere near me. And you know who I have not been visited by? Her. And I actually haven't been visited by my father either. Because once I moved, I said, you can stay here. You can either bug your mother in California, or you can bug, I don't know who. You can stay here. You are not following me. You are not coming anywhere near me. We're not doing this anymore. Goodbye. And haven't seen either one of them, so I'm not mad about that. I'm sure there are going to be people, and I am one of those people sometimes, where I would kind of hear this and say, I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily believe that's a ghost. I don't know what I believe that is. And that's totally fair, because I am often very, very skeptical, even of my own experiences. To tell someone who is supposed to be your grandchild, who you're supposed to love, and all of this, to say, you are not going to, like, all these things that you want in your life and your dreams, you're going down the wrong path, you're never going to achieve what you want. To say that to someone, regardless of whatever your thoughts are about, you know, what they're doing, that is just so diabolical to me. And so, yeah, I absolutely cut them out of my life, because why do I need some, you know, with friends like that, who needs enemies? You know, with family like that, who fucking needs enemies? Like, why would I want someone like that in my life? Why would I want to allow someone like that access to me, to say things like that to me? And I'm just supposed to, what, be okay with that? No, like, absolutely not. And so, yeah, I 100% was just like, no, we're done here. My recommendation to anybody who has had similar experiences with family is, it can be hard, but you've got to be willing to cut people out, because people will disrespect you, and people will disrespect your boundaries, disrespect your personhood, disrespect your beliefs. For what? It's just wild to me. I've always had a love for, or a fascination with, like, all types of media around hauntings, and especially, like, demonic possession. I have had a fascination with media surrounding demonic possession for a long time. I think it's partly because, you know, I love the movie The Exorcist, but partly I think I don't know, I have just this fascination with this idea. And so that is something that I'm going to talk about. I do have, like, topics, video essays that I want to do. Oh. Okay, well, this is the look. You know what? I'm sliving. I love this look. And I love this new vibe, this new environment. I have a new intro. So I'm really, like I said, I'm just trying to give you the full fantasy for 2025, and just a lot of changes and a lot of fun and ambiance. So this is it. Yeah, if you have made it this far, first of all, thank you so much. Please feel free. You can, so if you haven't made it this far, thank you so much. And you know what? I want you to comment down below a little ghost emoji, so I know that you're on board for what's coming next. And also, if you enjoyed this video, you can subscribe to this channel. You can become a member of this channel. You can like, comment, and you can become a patron, where you can get behind the scenes special access, once a month videos, and get your name on the wall. Oh. And until next time, stay devilish, and see you next Tuesday. Whee!